This week's episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast is sponsored by Pure Creative Apparel. From logo design to specialty clothing to branded merchandise, the team at Pure Creative Apparel can take your ideas and bring them to life. You can find out more at purecreativeapparel.com. And we thank Pure Creative Apparel for sponsoring this week's show. Welcome to the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We feature destination races from across the country. And after the race, we take you on a tour of the best local food and beverage to celebrate. So whether you are an elite runner or a back of the packer like us, you'll know the best places to accomplish, explore, and indulge on your next runcation. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. I am Amy.
And I am your ever so loving and willing co-host, Dana.
You are willing.
And loving, I've been told.
You're very loving.
Or at least I'm squishy and cuddleable.
We're made for love.
I'm built for comfort, not for speed. That's my line.
That is so true. You say that all the time.
There's a reason.
You do. Well, now that we're back and we've actually gotten some sleep and
recovered from being on the road and from sick 2 weeks ago on the road. We're back and kind of awake for the first time I think all weekend.
Yeah.
If you didn't pick up on it from social media over the weekend, we've been traveling. We were in Huntsville, Alabama.
Woohoo!
I had a work trip.
And I tagged along.
So we got some fantastic stuff to share with you all for the next probably 2 episodes. Then we'll have some quick bites thrown in there as well.
Yeah.
Because we really stumbled on a treasure trove of fantastic places for
who knew?
Who knew? The food and beverage scene in Huntsville, Alabama was so incredibly good.
I know.
And also the place that you found to run.
Oh, gorgeous. So when you travel, I think you have to do research to find places where you can run or make sure that your hotel has a treadmill.
I was going to say, nah, just do the treadmill. What's wrong with that?
I don't like it.
I don't either.
I don't like it.
It's called the treadmill for a reason.
Yeah, I feel like a hamster, you're just going nowhere. I can't deal with that. And I'm not saying that it doesn't have its place, because when you have to use it, it's good that your hotel has it or you have access to it at home for our northern friends who've just been through the winter, or for us in the summer when it's really, really hot.
Yeah, when the conditions are such that it's actually dangerous to run outside, then
lightning storm.
Time to consider the treadmill.
Thunderstorm. Yeah. So it's good that hotels have that, and when you do your research, you find that, so you know you at least have that option. But we were so lucky to have a gorgeous park. The Big Spring International Park, I think it was called.
And that's right in the heart of downtown Huntsville.
Yeah. So downtown Huntsville, we had 2 or 3 hotels situated around the park, near the park.
And the park's right across the street from the Braun Center, which is this hundreds of thousands of square foot large convention center and arena. That's where my conference was being held. And you had this amazing park and these mid-range traveler hotels that were all around there.
Yeah. That park was gorgeous. There was a spring and water running through it, and the Rotary of Huntsville had on one end just beautiful bricks set up, and they're like dedication bricks. Like I've seen them at Disney before. And they were surrounding water, and it was just a gorgeous place. And the humidity there was not nearly as bad as it's gotten here in the last couple days.
When we got off the plane coming back to Florida, it was about 2 a.m. And the minute we walked out of the airport, it was like a wall of steam hitting you. It was so different than what we had experienced for the last 6 days.
Because it was, even though we had some rain there, really, it was overnight.
It was overnight, and it really didn't linger. And even when it came through, the temperature dropped, and it was probably between in the low to mid 60s and then upwards of the low 80s, I think, the entire time we were there.
It was just gorgeous weather. And now that I have a freshly minted, shiny, new training plan from Jeff Galloway, Woo-hoo! Then I know then I can get it all done there in the park.
So you had to do your first bit of homework. Yeah. And you had the park there, and the park is, like you said, it's a spring-fed water feature. It's this big kind of like a lake, had some fountains, beautiful koi and ducks in there.
Oh, the fish were huge.
And people were out feeding the ducks, feeding the fish. It was right adjacent to the Huntsville Museum of Art. Again, just a great backdrop.
And they had the food available for the fish, so you could drop like a quarter and get some and actually...
Yeah, that actually goes back to the park.
Feed
So it was a way for people to do what they're going to do anyway, which is feed the animals, and for that to benefit the park and help keep the park up for the residents.
Yeah.
So you ended up using the paved roughly 1 mile, probably 0.8 miles around.
I think it was a little bit more. It was so close to a mile.
It was close.
It was so close.
But so you used that for your training run. This was, again, travel week, quote unquote, but not a travel week for a race.
No. So I had in the schedule, the way that Jeff had it set up for this week, he said, do cadence drills, do acceleration gliders, and then do some quarter miles during the week. And then on the weekend, instead of a long run, like high mileage, like 8, 9 miles, whatever, to do half miles and try to get them while you're practicing your intervals under a certain time. So he assigned 6 of those, 6 half miles on the weekend. Mm-hmm. And then the cadence drills and the 400s or quarter mile. Yeah.
And we've talked about the cadence drills before. That's really for you to increase the rate at which your feet are turning over. So it increases your turnover rate while you're running, which ultimately makes you faster.
Yeah, you practice that, and so that you get familiar with, your cadence and how to increase the number of steps within a given 30 seconds. You count 1 foot, how many times it hits the ground in the 30 seconds, or how many times you turn over. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to work on increasing that with each successive cadence drill. And the acceleration gliders we've talked about too. Within a given 30 seconds, it's kind of, you start out walking and then quicker steps until you reach a threshold, and then you decelerate.
That's for those of you that are considering doing the run, walk, run method, or if you've been doing it for a while. The idea is that you're smoothly transitioning from the running segment to the walking segment and back, so that you don't have that harsh, just bring it to a complete stop, and then the pounding that your knees and ankles take from all that braking, if you were to try to do it that way.
Yeah, I think that, if you don't practice those drills, I think that you would be really susceptible to stuff like shin splints.
Oh, I think
because
so.
of the braking that you would do. So those 2 drills then set you up for success when you go to increase your turnover and come in and out of your run, walk, run smoothly.
So this was a technical workout for you this week. Plus, you just did some on some of the days, not on the weekend. You were just doing some
walking,
light mileage walking, and keeping moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and enjoying that beautiful park and exploring areas in the downtown Huntsville area, just places that were within walking distance of our hotel and of the Braun Center, and just who knew that within a 2 or 3 mile radius of our hotel, we would find breweries and cool places to eat and just...
And I think our longest Lyft ride might have been 5 minutes to a place.
It was super easy to get to places.
So the lesson for this week is when you're traveling, you don't have to just rely on that treadmill. You can absolutely get into some resources. Google Maps, of course.
Oh, yeah.
I think some of the running apps also, you'll have people sharing routes.
Like Map My Run, maybe?
Map My Run.
Map My Walk.
And you can see what other people are doing to kind of get an idea.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you're checking out your hotels, look at what's around. Some hotels have a nice big property, and you don't even have to leave the property of the hotel to get a nice run in.
There are some in Orlando that we take advantage of, like the Bonnet Creek in Orlando, and the Hilton Orlando has a shorter loop kind of adjacent to the pool.
I think that's a quarter-mile loop.
So, I mean, if you had to do it and you were in a big city, you were worried about getting the mileage in and not having to use the treadmill and still being outside. I like being outside because ultimately the races, they're outside and you are conditioning yourself to the weather and running on the road as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that the treadmill is a liar, and it doesn't quite give you the same experience as running on the road. So
sometimes you have to, but
you do it when you have to.
Yeah.
Your option was much better.
Oh, I was so lucky.
Park was outstanding, and since we're going to be talking a little bit about Huntsville, I can just say if you're going to stay in the downtown Huntsville area, check out that park. And shout out to our hotel. This was our first time staying at an AC hotel by Marriott.
AC, and they had only been open how long?
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Staff was fantastic. That goes for the front desk staff, the kitchen staff, everybody. They were really, really pushing the customer service side of things.
Yeah.
Where normally Hilton... we tend to stay in the Hilton banner because we have a Hilton Honors awards account that we try to make sure we take advantage of. But this one happened to be, a Marriott, and it was fantastic. Yeah. So you got to stay in the downtown area if you're heading to Huntsville. That's a good hotel to consider, and that's not a paid advertisement. That's just a couple of travelers who were just recently there and can give you a good recommendation.
And that's not saying anything against the Hilton brand either, because right next door to us was an Embassy Suites.
Well, and we would have been there, but that was actually the conference hotel, and it filled really quick, so we couldn't get in over there.
An Embassy Suites is always great,
and we got to go through there, and it was also quite nice. So the hotel game in that area is actually very good for business traveling.
Yeah. The AC Marriott didn't have a pool, but I feel like that's coming. I feel like they were
doing some construction out back, but I couldn't tell what.
I'm hoping that's a pool for them.
But they really did. They are opening up a bar and a restaurant on the second floor that was under construction while we were there.
Which is kind of like an outdoor kind of bar.
Right, with an outdoor
nice
patio.
Lights and like a good kind of nightlife vibe.
Yeah, it has a kind of a European nightclub vibe for the whole restaurant. Even the rooms are, I kind of joked and said, wow, they went to the IKEA store and got furniture for us, because it's very European looking and maximizes the space that you get, and they use the furniture very smartly to do that.
Oh yeah, and they had some USB ports in addition to their regular outlets.
Yes. Yeah. So again, good technology, good rooms. Definitely consider that a hotel if you're heading to that area. Yeah. But you mentioned it when you were out exploring. You found some stuff, and then you were doing some research. Yeah. So once the running was over and my conference was done, it was time to grab food and drink in the area. Oh. And we found a couple of just killer spots that we're going to start out talking about this week, and next you're going to hear about some more. Yeah. And we may reference a couple here and there, but stick with us, and because this week and next through the podcast and through social media, we're going to give you a little bit of a tasting tour of Huntsville, and you won't be disappointed, I promise you.
Who knew? And it's like all this stuff that we just want to jam pack into our shows. We want to talk about it all. So,
but we don't want to do it, and have it be a 90-minute show. So this is
Right.
going to be a good episode for a short to medium run.
Yeah.
So, the first thing I want to talk about anyway was really the first place that kind of jumped out at me, and it was really because it was just like going back in time and eating at my childhood, and that was this place called the Toybox Bistro.
I found it in Yelp when I was just, you know how you start out going, hey, I'm going to go to the city. Let me just put it in Yelp and see what restaurants are there. And it wasn't like the ratings and reviews really that at first intrigued me. It was the Toybox Bistro, the name.
Yeah, they oh gosh, they have a kind of a cute motto that's on their door, and it says "Eat, drink, and be nerdy."
Oh, I love that.
And they aren't kidding, because the second you walk in the door, you are hit right in the face with some fantastic posters that were taken right from comic book stores that I would go to when I was a kid, toys hanging from the ceiling.
Yes.
Just about every Star Wars vehicle you could imagine. Posed like they're having a big dogfight over your head as you're walking in, and they've got stuff on one wall that's from more modern video games like Minecraft. They've got figurines on shelves. They've got a whole separate room, and when you walk through the door, in order to announce that they're walking through the door, they shout out the word portal.
Portal.
And if you worked in restaurants or you know anything about restaurant etiquette, and when you're working back a house, you always call out your corner when you're going around a blind corner to warn people you're coming. And they were saying portal, and above the door was the symbol from the video game Portal. So they really embrace science fiction, fantasy, and the toys of the 80s and 90s.
Like Doctor Who, references to Doctor Who.
Everything you could think of just about. And that's just the things that you first notice when you walk in.
But also, their staff was great. Their staff was great. The co-owner and the servers that started us off.
Yes, we had Debbie was our server. Shout out to Debbie.
Shout out to Debbie and Spider.
She was also, she kind of sat us and got us ready, and I think took our drink order and then handed us off to Debbie.
Yeah. Yeah,
And-
she brought us some samples of some beer
And
on tap, which we'll talk about later.
And then I think it's a really nice mark of a restaurant when the servers know their menu, and these two knew it inside and out.
Yes, they did.
And they actually, you can tell that they legitimately believed in and loved what was on the menu.
Yes, like they had been a part of that culture, of all that. They're steeped in that memorabilia, and they love the food, and they just love working there.
Yeah. And they were having fun, and all the other customers were having fun, and that just made the dining experience that much better. But the actual dining experience, it's a kind of an eclectic menu. I guess you could call it American comfort food.
I think so.
With some other things thrown in there, but for the most part, American comfort food. And
Yes.
tell us about what you had.
Okay, well, we asked Debbie for recommendations, and she gave us a couple of doozies. They have hot dogs on the menu, and they are deep fried.
Not battered.
They're deep fried. It's not a battered thing, but they are deep fried dogs. And there are several different configurations, or you could get the deep fried dog and just put whatever toppings you want on it. But I ended up getting the Capone, which is a reference to a Chicago-style dog.
Ooh.
And
and by the way, can I just say this before you get into what was on it? This dog's a monster. They don't.
Huge.
It's not served in a bun. It's served in a baguette.
Yes. It is. I mean, like, I don't even know. Foot long. It was humongous.
It was.
Humongous. Deep fried goodness. And it had relish and mustard and peppers. Oh my God. And when you took a bite of this hot dog, it was, the deep frying of the hot dog itself, I think made it, just a little bit sweeter, the meat a little bit sweeter. And the relish had kind of a tart and sweet, and then the mustard gave it the bite, and then the peppers, they just gave it the spice, and they were pickled peppers. So, I mean, all in all, that was, I mean, I had to cut it. I had to cut off a part of it to be able to pick it up because it was so huge.
Yeah, they served it in like a basket.
In a basket, yeah.
That basket was full.
Yeah, and you could get your own, you had a choice of side. And I chose, on Debbie's recommendation, the warm potato salad. And you wanted that too, and I know you got that too. But they also have, and we ended up getting an extra side of waffles that are made of macaroni and cheese, and they have been waffled.
Yeah, they just take they take their own house-made mac and cheese,
and they
by the way, everything's house-made except for their French fries.
Yeah,
and they take that and stick it in a screaming hot waffle iron, and they waffle that mac and cheese until you can pick it up by hand.
And we picked it up by hand.
And Debbie said it would remind us a lot of a Cheez-It.
And she was spot on. Spot on.
Flavor was just like, and I can eat Cheez-Its by the box just about. They're one of my favorite snacks. And it was just perfect for, snacking. If you wanted to, like, I don't know, you could dip it in your potato salad if you wanted to, or just eat it on its own,
or put hot sauce on it.
Yeah. To give you that spicy and that cheesy. But so we had that as an extra side, but we're both huge fans. They have
salty, crunchy goodness. Yes,
it really was.
Yes,
but they also use those waffles in a slider dish.
I believe so.
So you have that as an option.
A chicken slider,
like a chicken slider, chicken and waffle slider. But Debbie said that their potato salad was fantastic, and the secret there was to get it warm. And what they actually do, it's a mayonnaise-based potato salad, but they actually take it and they put it on the flat top and griddle it. So you get that warmth on the potato salad. You get a kind of around the edges where they let it sit a little bit. You get a little bit of crispness, but just a phenomenal flavor. Oh. It's not really a very mustardy potato salad. This is much more of a creamy and savory potato salad, as opposed to a tart and sweet like a traditional yellow potato salad would be.
I mean, oh my God, it was so good. So good.
Yeah, we're not overselling this, folks. It's absolutely one of the best. And then my dish.
Yeah, I want you to describe your dish, because my mouth is watering just.
I'm actually pulling up a photo of it, and I'm looking at it.
And
again, they serve their sandwiches in a basket. My basket was completely full,
jam-packed.
I really didn't need a whole sandwich, but I didn't see an option for a half. And actually, they sell shirts there, and their motto on the shirts is, "You don't stop when you're full, you stop when you're ashamed."
We needed that shirt.
I know, and I should have picked one up.
Because that's exactly what we did.
That sandwich, I'd not eaten anything the whole day. I was going there planning to eat, and this was a pot roast sandwich. They do their pot roast there in-house. It is cooked for 16 hours.
Oh, yum.
And they basically pile this tender, beefy, just melt in your mouth, perfect pot roast on top of this soft roll or soft, I guess you could call it a hoagie roll.
Yeah.
Split hoagie roll. And then they douse it in this just fantastic beef gravy that's so deep, so rich. It reminds me of like a beef demi-glaze. And the closest thing I could describe this to you was like this kind of took me back to like watching Star Trek at home in the evening, eating maybe leftover pot roast that my mom had made and making a sandwich out of that. That'd be the best way I could describe it. It was just such a cozy and comforting meal to have, and a really welcoming environment in which to have it. So that was an absolute winner. And I also got a side of the griddled potato salad. We just couldn't. We didn't do a very good job at not ordering the same sides to give a lot of variety. But we got the extra side of the griddled mac and cheese to make up for that. So we suffered for you.
We wanted to bring it to you, and we did.
And we did. We made the sacrifice.
Oh my gosh!
So then after that, we just wandered around and we're looking at the toys. And I mean, you got everything from really higher end collectible figurines. They had, cool Funko Pops. They had board games on the ceiling, like
the tic-tac-toe.
That's toss across. Hungry Hippos, Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Oh.
They had some, I don't know what you would call them, like bead artwork. They had a little TARDIS that somebody made. They had a couple of other things that were smaller, but then they had the big pieces, the Star Wars memorabilia that was all over this place. Was just fantastic. And you go in the other room and they got a bunch of Transformers that were still in the original Japanese packaging that hadn't been opened. And again, just a great nostalgia bomb and something that is worth going to, not only to get a fantastic meal, but if you're a Gen Xer and you're looking to enjoy a little bit of nostalgia, but just a fantastic place to go.
Do you want to talk about right now the fact that we returned?
Yeah, well, we enjoyed it so much, actually. On our last day, we didn't have to fly out till late. We actually went back. Or, I'm sorry, our next to last day.
Yes.
Conference was concluded for the day. We ended up going back. It was on May 4th. That is, of course, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And on that day, they actually had a special menu that was just for May the 4th, and it was a Star Wars themed menu. They actually printed it with Darth Vader and Stormtrooper faces on the menu, and it was a smaller menu as far as total number of things offered.
Yes,
but it was like it was a special menu that was purpose made for the event, and
we had. From that menu, and I didn't look to see if it was on their regular menu, but we had the Tauntaun wontons as an appetizer when we went back.
And these are basically deep fried crab rangoons.
Oh my gosh. And they had a sweet Thai chili sauce with them. They were just perfect.
I will tell you, probably
in the texture.
And probably some of the best crab rangoons I've ever had in terms of the ratio of filling to wonton.
Like, it wasn't falling out of the wonton. It was holding up. And even the part that is softer that has the filling was holding up to it.
Yeah, you could take a bite and it would hold up.
You could dip it in the sauce and not worry about it falling apart.
Didn't fall apart. There was no shortage of filling.
Right.
The filling actually had some meat to it, which was really nice to experience. And it wasn't greasy.
No, they were so crispy on the edges.
Yeah, they've done that wontons once or twice.
They were amazing. They were so good. Now, I mean, I saw on the menu the Chewbacca burger which had a fried egg and American cheese and crispy fried onions and bacon jam. But I know what was calling to you.
I'm a spice head, and some people may have picked up on that from some of the other episodes, but if not, I grew up eating a lot of traditional Thai food. I love spicy food, not just for to say I ate the hot thing, but I just love the flavor. And they were actually offering a burger here. It's a 6-ounce patty topped with their pulled barbecue pork, crispy fried jalapenos. So there's your first layer of heat. Ooh. Then they were putting a ghost chili cheese on top. So that's going to really bring the heat. That's a lot of Scovilles coming at you.
I mean, did you start to sweat? Did I see like perspiration on your cheeks?
By the end of the burger, yeah. And I'll get to that in a second, because that's not the only layer of heat. But wait, there's more. There's a local place that does pickles called Pablo's Pickles. And they also did a fantastic bit of bacon on that. And that was on a toasted Kaiser bun. The different types of heat from the jalapeno, the ghost chili, and Pablo's Pickles was very subtle. So you didn't at any point have so much heat that you couldn't taste the burger, but it was a building heat. So the first bite gave you a little bit of tingle. The second bite kind of warmed the front of your mouth. The third bite, that's when you started feeling a little bit of perspiration under the eyelids. Uh-huh. And by 5 or 6 bites in, okay, it was time for a beer.
Oh, yes.
And but that was me, and I was super happy with it. And oh, by the way, they will do cook temperatures on burgers all the way down to rare. And I only mention that because a lot of places don't anymore. No. I've said I don't want anybody's well done burger.
No.
But if you have to settle for medium or medium well, that's fine. I like my medium rare.
I like that they just allow you to choose.
And they said they would go all the way to rare, but they couldn't do it blue. I have no problem with that. I don't want a tartare, but I do want it, on the rare side.
I just like that variety, and it's not just one way.
And that burger was called the Death Star Burger.
Yeah.
And everything on the menu had a theme from Star Wars, and you got something called the Sarlacc Pit.
You might call me a copycat, because when you got your sandwich the first time we went to the Toybox Bistro, he might have let me have a bite, and it was amazing. So when we came back, there were all sorts of things on the menu that I could have tried, like that Chewbacca burger. Like there was a beef hot dog that we saw somebody else in the restaurant get that was wrapped in pizza dough and had pepperoni and cheese and marinara dipping sauce that looked awesome.
And they were saying to us from across the table, like, oh, this is fantastic.
This is awesome, But I had something that was named the Sarlacc Pit.
Yep.
The Sarlacc Pit.
Tell us what it is. I know what it is.
You know what it is. And they have it on their regular menu too. It's the pot roast sundae with roast beef, gravy, cheese, crispy fried onions, mashed potatoes, and it comes with a side salad. But let me just tell you that, you don't need the side salad, even though it was excellent though. The Caesar salad that I got.
So it was more of that 16-hour pot roast.
It was so tender. It was the right amount of beefy and fatty flavor. And when the co-owner came over, I said, can you because he was like, hey, we were taking pictures and we were recording some video snippets to share on social media. And he said, I saw you were doing your thing. Do you need a reheat? And I said, no, but I would absolutely love to have can I just have a cup of this gravy? Because it was so good. It was so good. I have no shame in saying that I'm a copycat and that I did get what you had on that sandwich, because it was so incredible.
Yeah, that's probably, And they say they sell a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I can see why.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that good.
Oh, yeah.
So while we were there, though, we did get some drinks. Almost every place we went offered a selection of local brews because the local brewery scene in Huntsville is fantastic. There are tons of places that are only brewing and distributing either in the city or just in the localized region. And while we were there, they had a great selection. They let us try a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And what was the beer that you had here? Because I think it leads us into our drink destination.
I had something called the Brojo. I had the Brojo. So, what can I say about this? The Brother Joseph is actually what it is called.
Well, before we go on, I'm going to take a minute to tell you all about our friends at Pure Creative Apparel. Anybody can silkscreen a shirt. Look, we know it's true. I did it as a project in high school. But the team at Pure Creative Apparel is really much more than that. They will take you through the entire process to create your custom items, right from the very beginning with the design of your artwork or company logo, then create mock-ups to show you what the finished product will look like and help you select just the right high-quality name brand clothing or other merchandise on which you're going to place your artwork or your logo. And then they'll get you your items fast. Or if you're not looking to get into the whole online sales thing and you don't want to worry about inventory, packaging, shipping, and all of that, Pure Creative Apparel has a complete e-commerce package available. So whether you're a school, church, or club needing just a few shirts for a special event, or a company looking for a complete branding package, Pure Creative Apparel can help. Find out how by going to purecreativeapparel.com. And we really thank them for their support of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast.
Yeah, okay. I know you want me to get to the beer. I really do.
It was so good.
Yeah, but can we come back to the beer because I feel like the dessert we had, we can't overlook that because right next door.
Yeah, fair enough. And by the way, not to say that they had a great dessert or some great dessert options there, but
the Obi-Wan cannoli.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But
yeah,
there was a spot that was right next door that caught our eye.
Yes, and it was called Sugar Bell, and they started out as a food truck from what we understand. And then they still have a food truck, although they've evolved it. It's gotten better.
I think they're on Food Truck 2.0 now.
Yeah. And they have this location right next door to Toybox. So after you have become ashamed.
We actually had what they called quitters boxes. We didn't finish all the food.
Yeah.
So we took some back to the hotel.
Yes, we took some back to the hotel.
But for dessert,
we had cupcakes, and they came highly recommended from the people at Toybox. And they had such a cool little vibe inside of Sugar Bell. It was an 80s vibe, so it went very, very well with the Toybox.
Oh, yeah.
Bistro.
Hand in glove.
Because, I mean, right there they had an old television.
They had a few, actually.
Well, yeah, they had they had one big floor set.
The big floor set.
That reminded me of the one that I used to sit in front of as a kid when people said, don't sit too close. You'll go blind.
And you were convinced the only reason your parents had you was because they needed somebody to change the channel.
Right.
Because you were the remote control.
You were the remote control, right? It was a box like that, a TV set like that, with an Atari 2600. Oh, I was so excited.
Yeah, that was in their little seating area. They also had like an old Sega Genesis, a Nintendo entertainment system, and they might have had, I wasn't sure if it was like a TurboGrafx 16, but they had
I don't know,
various other old games, but the big one that took prominence was the Atari 2600.
I didn't really care about all that. Those were kind of tabletop, smaller televisions hooked up to game system. The one that was showcased was the Atari 2600 with Frogger
well, a
people.
Whole stack of cartridges, but Frogger was the one
that called to me. because I used to play it all the time. So we were, full. So we actually got cupcakes from their case of beautiful cupcakes to take back to the room for later.
Yeah.
Because we were lucky to have a refrigerator in the room. So the chocolate and the strawberry were highly recommended from the staff next door.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw the chocolate salted caramel or caramel, tomato, cupcake. And I had to get that salted caramel cupcake because that is my jam. I love salted caramel, anything.
That's true.
Anything.
But we got those take back and we had them later. They were absolutely fantastic. The buttercream
frosting
was a perfect consistency.
Glorious.
It was not too dense. It wasn't too airy like a whipped cream.
No, it was like buttercream, and you could feel in the texture like the sugar.
A little bit of the graininess, which is perfect.
And then the drizzle of caramel that was on the salted caramel cupcake.
Yeah, that one. We also got a cookie dough, which that was garnished with a little, like a scoop of cookie dough right on top.
In addition to the frosting.
Yeah.
Because, I'm all about that.
And then the cupcakes themselves were very moist.
They didn't need a filling, like sometimes it'll be great. Some cupcakes have a little surprise.
Right.
In the middle, like some peanut butter ganache or chocolate ganache or
pudding.
Or like a jelly or jam. But this did not need it. Even back at the hotel hours later, that even having been in the refrigerator was such moist cake.
Yeah, it really was.
It was so flavorful and I wish we had a Sugar Bell here in our hometown.
Oh, they would
print money. Yeah.
Their cupcakes are fantastic, so definitely check them out. But the main takeaway there is you can get sugared up. You can hop on the couch. You can kick your feet up and play some Atari 2600.
And feel like a child again.
And they had, like she said, Frogger, Pac-Man, Combat, a ton of games right there for you. And, have your cupcake, get a coffee, just relax, and just a neat space. And everybody there was just super, super friendly.
So nice. Such a great little companion to the Toybox Bistro.
Yeah. Okay, so I mentioned it.
I know
we teased it.
I know.
When we were over, we've run, we've eat. Now for the drinking, we got introduced to one of the local breweries that is there in the area, and that was due to trying some of their beer at the Toybox. Amy had something called the Brojo, which is short for
Brother Joseph. Named after a brother Joseph that was an actual person. So, but I like the name of the brewery, the Straight to Ale.
Yes.
I love the play on words.
Straight to ale.
Yeah.
You're going straight to ale. Well,
and I did.
I don't know. It was kind of like beer heaven. Because,
it was.
Aside from it being served at that restaurant, we actually went to the brewery.
Yes, we did.
And it's a neat spot. They are in a larger complex called Campus 805, which is an old middle school that's been converted into basically a variety of different spaces for arts and entertainment. So
yes,
on this campus, you've got the brewery, you've got a place to go throw axes, you've got a coffee shop, you got another restaurant, you got a place to drink wine and paint.
Yes.
I think there was like a business office tucked in there somewhere too.
I think so, yeah.
But it was just such a neat concept. The brewery there is actually, they've taken over what part of the school? They took over the basketball court.
Yeah, where they brew.
All their tanks.
Where they brew in all their tanks. And then their bar is actually the lobby, or what would have been the lobby to go into the basketball court. And they still had the scoreboard, and they still had a hoop up.
Yeah, in the brewery floor.
Yeah. It was great.
And the whole place is they didn't like gut it and turn it into something different. It is a giant play on you are doing very adult things in a school setting. And,
Yes.
yeah, they have a home room that is basically a place where you can go sit at a table, pull up a board game, bring your beer in there, and just have some time with your friends. Or
tabletop video games.
Tabletop video games that's been put into a bourbon barrel
on top of it. It was so great.
It was a super cool space. And then in one place there's a set of lockers, and if you know to slide those lockers back, there's a speakeasy back there.
So great.
And so just a really neat space. But Straight to Ale is doing a ton of beer for local distribution and in their own restaurant that they had there called Ale's Kitchen.
Yes.
And we had their beer at the Toybox.
Originally, we had it at Toybox Bistro. And then, in upcoming Quick Bites and upcoming episodes, we'll break down Campus 805.
Yeah.
And tell you a little bit more about that, because what a great little place and kind of like a part of an ale trail.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So
talk about Brother Joseph.
Oh, Brother Joseph. Oh, I think that it's one of their flagship beers.
It must be, because I saw it in a couple of places that we went.
Yeah, because it was all over the place. I think they have also a Monkey Knot IPA, so they have several different flagship beers. But this Brother Joseph is a Belgian-style double that is 8%. And let me tell you, it is not bitter at all. It is, but it's all of the 8% because it had a kind of boozy taste, but
darker,
not what?
A darker color.
Oh, a darker color, yeah. But it wasn't.
Like a deep amber.
Yeah, it was like a deep amber, brownish color, and it wasn't so dark you couldn't. Like when you held it up to the light, you could kind of sort of see that color, and it tasted, you could taste like a medium carbonation, medium body, not bitter. The caramel and malty notes, but I got hints of rum raisin.
Yeah.
On the finish.
Yeah. I actually, she said that to me, and I'm like, let me try that. And I said, ooh, I'll order one of those after I tasted it. Absolutely true. It's almost like that's a great way to describe it. It's like almost a rum raisin flavored beer.
So good.
And very smooth. But again, higher gravity beer.
Oh yeah.
So
I don't think
when you start talking about 8% ABV, not super sessionable.
No.
That one might sneak up on you a little bit.
Maybe, unless you had just had a massive meal.
That's true.
That you were not ashamed of, but ashamed of.
in a good way.
In a good way.
You were ashamed in a good way.
Yeah. So it was absolutely fantastic. Bro Joe for the win. But you also had a great beer as well.
Well, I did. And this was not one that we discovered at the Toybox. This is one that we discovered when we went over to the brewery itself. Oh. Amy was very happy to try a little more Brother Joseph.
Yes.
And that was a Belgian-style double. Mm-hmm. They also had something on tap called Three Caves Triple. So this is a Belgian-style triple, 9%
higher.
ABV. It's one more. One more ABV.
Plus one.
Very different in terms of the look of the beer. This has a very deep golden color, almost amber, so it's not as dark as the Brojo was.
No.
But a very full-bodied beer. I love Belgians. I think that I've kind of turned you on to them.
Yeah.
With that Belgian yeast, oftentimes you get notes of banana, clove.
You love that.
I do.
You love that.
If you're not really familiar with them, if you ever had a Hoegaarden,
yes,
which you'll often see on tap in some places that are kind of dipping their toe in the craft beer world, Hoegaarden's an excellent way to kind of get an introduction to the the Belgian flavor profiles that you'll often get. But this was fantastic. Again, at 9% ABV, you're not drinking a lot of those. That's basically a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
So if you're used to drinking American-style lagers or pilsners, this one, you need to pace yourself, make sure you get a nice belly full of food, and like we did, make sure that you are using rideshare, Uber, Lyft.
Designated driver, what have you. Yeah, be safe.
But their beer game is really, really strong.
Yeah, and they had a Pilsner too. We just didn't try it. Well, at Straight to Ale, when we visited there, they have a variety.
They had several cream ales. I had a sarsaparilla cream ale that I will talk about in a quick bite, and a couple of others. But yeah, we got some stuff coming up in quick bites for you. Yeah,
when we talk about Straight to Ale, and it was just such a great place.
It really was.
Yeah.
So
I know. I go on and on.
Well, we got so much to share with you all this week and next. We're hoping that you're as excited to hear about it as we are to tell you about it, because we absolutely had a blast exploring this city and seeing just how much Huntsville, Alabama had to offer foodies and people who are into the craft beer scene.
Rocket City.
Rocket City has a rockin' beer scene.
And food scene.
Yes. And a lot of these breweries are doing both.
And I think that there's a Rocket City half that Suzanne from the Extra Mile podcast group was telling me about. So you could truly run, eat, and drink.
Well, there may be something to schedule for an upcoming episode.
Because, man, who knew? And now I'm just craving like I want to go right back.
And it's hard to believe that in being there 6 days, almost 7, we didn't see it all.
No.
There were still several local breweries that had a really great reputation amongst locals that we didn't get a chance to go to just because we ran out of time.
Yeah.
So, but speaking of running out of time, I think that we're right about there.
Well, yes, but stay tuned for more.
So, yeah, we've got, like I said, tons of stuff coming up this week. You've got some little food segments.
Sure.
Some beer segments.
Bring it on.
And some video game segments, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Coming up. Anything
with cocktails included.
And your long run next week is what's your homework look like?
Oh, yeah. This weekend, I think it's something like 8.5 miles. Oof. So anybody who's up there with those high mileage, almost double digit or whatever you're doing, take us along with you on that run or on that commute. And don't forget to visit our website at runeatdrink.net and shop in our online store to help support the show, and grab a bottle opener, grab a t-shirt, show the love for the Run Eat Drink podcast.
Yeah, we've had a couple of people send us pictures with some of their swag.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that. It helps keep the lights on and helps pay for some of these trips. And what better way to open your newly found craft beer than that really cool Run Eat Drink podcast bar key?
Definitely. I love that bar key.
So
from our folks and our friends at Pure Creative Apparel.
And they brought us all the merchandise in the store. We cannot thank them enough for picking out some high quality merch for us to bring to you.
Yes. Anybody who's celebrating this weekend, happy Mother's Day. And to our friends at Pure Creative Apparel, Pam, it's her birthday this weekend. So happy birthday, Pam. Thanks for all that you do for us and the show.
They're great. So check them out. Check us out. And we will see you later on this week and next week for the big episode.
Yes, for sure.
For the Run Eat Drink podcast, I'm Dana.
And I'm Amy. We'll see you next time. Talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We're having a great second year thanks to your support. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Run, Eat, Drink Podcast. And on Twitter, we're at Run, Eat, Drink Pod. Visit our website at runeatdrink.net so you can click on the iTunes link and subscribe so you won't miss a minute where we accomplish, explore, and indulge. Come along with us. See you next time.